Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and 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 me. Welcome back, you glorious individuals. It is I, ValenVain, and we are back here to educate, here to learn new things, as it were. And I figured that now was probably a good time, in the beginnings of this, well, new age of YouTube education, to talk about, well, terminology, very specifically, sexualities. The LGBTQIA has an awful lot of letters in it. They all stand for different labels of sexualities and, well, genders and what have you, and it can all get a little bit confusing. So, let's talk about it. Let's learn a little bit and hopefully make it a little less confusing. We actually talk a lot about this on my Twitch channel because we have a very varied community. We have people from all strokes of life, different sexualities, different genders, but also different ages, cultures, religions. And as a result, we get a whole variety of different perspectives of life from all these wonderful individuals. And one thing that I have learnt through having such a varied community is that some people can be quite shy about asking questions. They're afraid that somebody's going to jump down their throats if they ask the wrong question. Or they're afraid that they should be in a scenario where they should already know the answer to the question that has been burning in their minds. You have the ones that are more commonplace, like heterosexuality, homosexuality, or straight and gay, as many people will know them by. But then what is asexuality? What is pansexuality? All of these are ones that, in certain circles, you're just expected to know. And sometimes you're afraid to ask, because you don't know what kind of reception you're going to get. Now, I feel very strongly about education over condemnation. First things first, I feel like it's really important to say that the reason why many people may go on the offensive when asked certain questions is because there's a very good chance they've been asked those questions 1,000,000 times already that week, or that day, or that month, and they don't want to have to answer it again. So please don't hold these people in a negative light because of the fact that they got a little bit angry or frustrated when you ask the question. So if you have a question about somebody's sexuality or about somebody's gender, just be aware of how you phrase the question and what tone of voice you use to make sure that you are more likely to get a positive and informative answer. I am certainly not one to jump down someone's throat if they ask a question. I would rather they ask and get an answer than not ask and continually wonder and misunderstand and get things wrong and make judgments because of those things. You know? So, with that in mind, shall we have a look at what sexualities there are? Now, I will preface this by saying I'm not going to be covering every single letter in the LGBTQIA in this individual video, because I quite simply do not have the time. However, I will be covering the ones that are more commonly heard in casual conversation. Now, without any further ado, let's get to it, shall we? First things first, the definition. What is a sexuality? Behold the pipe. It makes me look more intelligent. Sexuality. A person's identity in relation to the gender or genders to which they are typically attracted, also known as their sexual orientation. Sexuality is not about who you have sex with or how often you have it. You can find someone physically, sexually, or emotionally attractive, and all of these things are part of your sexuality. Sexuality is an important part of who you are, and discovering your sexuality can be very liberating, exciting, and, well, an eye-opening experience. Now, before we go any further, please be aware that people frequently experience discrimination because of their sexuality. And I am not just talking about the LGBTQIA. The LGBTQIA get a lot of discrimination from cisgendered heterosexual individuals. It is true. But it is also seen on the other side of things, where heterosexual people get discriminated against by the gay community, or the bisexuals get discriminated against by both. I have seen many bisexual people who have been told by gay friends that they're just not gay enough, or been told by heterosexual people that they are just having a fool around, just trying to discover themselves. It's a fad. Let's remember, friends, that sexuality is very important on an individual basis, and nobody gets to dictate or criticize your sexuality. As I frequently say, so long as it's all between consenting adults, who gives a fuck? With the discrimination fresh in our minds, I have to say, as much as discovering your sexuality can be one of the most liberating experiences and exciting experiences, and genuinely one of the most heartfelt and fulfilling of experiences, please be safe. As much as sexuality is one of the core building blocks of what makes us as a person, it can be really hard to go through that journey and come to terms with that fact. Sometimes it's an element of who we are goes against what we have been brought up to believe. Sometimes it's a fact of who we are upsets or even disgusts those that are closest to us. Not only that, but while you are still in the fresh stages of discovering yourself, there can be people out there who predate on your vulnerable position, who see you in this early form of understanding yourself and target you specifically because of that, because you are naive, because you are unsure. So make sure that you are very self-aware in what you are doing and who you are doing it with, and anybody that you choose to tell, make sure there is trust and make sure there is safety. And if you are one of these wonderful individuals who is genuinely struggling and not sure where to turn, not sure who to tell, reach out. There are so many resources on the internet to learn about the LGBTQIA, to ask questions of the LGBTQIA, go to pride marches, meet people within the community of the LGBTQIA and ask questions, not just of one person, but of multiple individuals. So you get so many different answers and you can dictate what is your truth based on their experiences. And remember, no matter what happens, being true to yourself is the most important. And remember that you are valid. Your feelings are valid. Your emotions are valid. And your confusion and struggle and journey is all valid. Now, before we jump straight into it, I want to preface this next, educational section by saying that we are going to be specifically looking at sexualities and not necessarily romances. So we're looking at attractions, sexual attractions, and not necessarily the romantic connections that people have. There is a difference. You can have a specific sexuality where you are physically attracted to a certain gender, and you could have a different romance where you are attracted to multiple genders in a romantic fashion. Two different sides of intimacy, really. While we're at it, let's also talk about the fact that every single sexuality is a spectrum. And therefore, the definitions that I'm going to give you today may not apply to every single person that you meet. If somebody says they are a specific sexuality, understand that they will have their own understanding of what that sexuality is, and respect that. Just because it doesn't fall within the boundaries that I am going to give you today does not mean that they are not on the spectrum of that sexuality. Let's do this alphabetically, shall we? Let's start with asexual. Asexuality, or those that fall within the asexual umbrella, tend to not have a attraction to somebody, a physical sexual attraction to somebody. This does not mean that they do not have sex. It does not mean that they do not have an urge to have sex. It just means they don't have a physical attraction to a specific person. The LGBTQIA wiki actually explains that asexual individuals do not have the standard attraction to an individual in the standard way. That does not mean that they do not like having sex. It just means that they're not attracted to somebody in the way that would be considered by society a standard way. I know people who are asexual who love sex. They just don't really mind what the person looks like that they're getting it from. On the alternative side of things, I also know people who absolutely detest sex. They have no interest in it one iota. All within the asexual spectrum, all entirely valid. Asexuality is also one of the sexualities that is so different to me and my sexuality and the way that I am. And therefore, I actually reached out and spoke to an asexual person, the wonderful Becca Beckery, on the Thirsty Work podcast. I will put a link down below for that episode. If you are interested more in asexuality, you might want to give it a listen. Autosexual. Name given to people who are primarily attracted to themselves. This can actually take a variety of different forms. Little or no response to somebody else's sexual touch, but thoroughly enjoying your own masturbation sessions. To levels where you are not even vaguely attracted to anyone but yourself. Fantasizing about having sex with yourself. And pretty much being in situations where people say, go fuck yourself, and you wish that you could. I would say that there's definitely a good chance that there's a part of that I am on board. I can't deny it. ValenVain. Vain by name. Vain by nature. Bisexuality. Bisexual people are attracted to two or more of the genders. Understanding that there are more than two genders. There are much more intelligent people who have explained this. Gender is not to do with genitalia, friends. It's not. It just isn't. It's also defined as people who are attracted to their own gender and others. It encompasses a wide spectrum of attraction, maybe attracted to various different genders in a different way. A couple of myths I would like to squash just now. Being bisexual does not mean that you are greedy. Being bisexual does not mean that you need to pick a side. Being bisexual does not mean that you are automatically polyamorous or you are down for a threesome. So when somebody says they are bisexual, please don't lead with the line, oh, you're down for a threesome then. It's just rude. Also want to slide this in here that regardless of what kind of relationship you end up in, whether that be a heteronormative relationship or a homosexual relationship, that doesn't stop you from being bisexual. You aren't automatically one side or the other just because you get a partner. Heterosexual or straight, as people know the terminology better. This used to be a term that was actively saved for the binary of genders. If you're a man, you're attracted to women. If you're a woman, you're attracted to men. However, the world has changed, and we recognize the fact that there are more than two genders. Just a thing. There has always been more than two genders. If you look at a variety of different cultures throughout the entirety of the history of the human race, they have been recognized, appreciated, and in some cases, worshipped. Just saying. With that in mind, let's break it down a little bit more. Heterosexuality is being attracted to the gender that you are not. If you're a heterosexual man, you are not attracted to men. If you're a heterosexual woman, you are not attracted to women. If you are a heterosexual non-binary individual, you are not... You get the idea. I honestly believe in the way that the world is moving and the way the world is evolving and our understanding of gender is becoming more open-minded. That is a much better way of acknowledging the way that heterosexuality actually is. And as a direct lead on from that, let's move straight on to homosexual, or gay, or lesbian, as the case may be. As the almost polar opposite to heterosexuality, homosexuality is about being attracted to the gender that you also are. Homosexual woman, attracted to women. Homosexual man, attracted to men. Homosexual non-binary individual, attracted to non-binary individuals. Homosexuality is definitely one of the more common sexualities heard of in your day-to-day life. You're more likely to come across somebody who's gay rather than somebody who's pansexual, for example. We'll get onto that shortly. I'm going to take a moment now to throw in an important message. Hey, guess what, friends? Regardless of whether you're cisgendered or transgendered, you can still be heterosexual, homosexual, any of the sexualities. Men attracted to men are homosexuals, regardless of whether they're trans or cisgendered. Your genitalia does not dictate what you are attracted to. You might have a preference for genitalia, but that's an entirely different... That's a different video that I'll do some other time. But yes, gender and genitalia are completely different things. Genitalia you are born with does not dictate your gender or the gender of the people that you should be attracted to. Moving on to pansexuality. A person who is attracted to someone regardless of their gender identity, gender expression, or genitals. Basically, pansexuals are attracted to the person that you are, not the meat bag that you wear. Pansexuality can often get confused and mistaken for bisexuality because it's another one of those multi-gender attraction sexualities, but it's massively different. Bisexuality is attractions to genders as a whole, whereas pansexuality is attraction to individuals regardless of their genitals or gender. It's the individual, the person, their personality, the way that they are as a human that you are attracted to, not what they have in their trousers or the gender group that they are grouped in. Which leads me on to the next level of potential confusion, which is omnisexual. Omnisexuality is when someone is attracted to all of the genders, though gender may play a role in how they are attracted to somebody. Also, not to be confused with bisexuality. Bisexuality is attraction to specific genders of one's own and of another, whereas omnisexual is attracted to all genders, all peoples. I can completely understand how they get confused and crossed over, but if you see more than two genders, then you can kind of see how that changes. This next one. Pomosexual or pomosexual. Homosexual is the term given to people who don't like labels and don't identify as one themselves. Yeah, that calls me right out. I do love the irony with the fact that they have given label to people that don't like labels. Yes, friends, I believe in an ideal world no one would care who a person is attracted to, as long as it's all between consenting adults. What does it matter? But here we are. Don't get me wrong, I understand a good need for labels in self-discovery and learning about yourself and learning about where you fit in society and what have you. But in an ideal world, that shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter who you're attracted to, so long as they're consenting and over the age of 18. What does it matter? Love is love. Leave people to it. You don't have to understand it in order to respect them as human beings. You know? And finally, queer. It's important to note that there is a massive difference between the general term queer and the sexuality that is queer. We're going to be focusing on the sexuality because this is an entire ballpark that I really don't want to get into in this video. Queer as a sexuality means undefined. Queer is a general term for those that don't fit within the boxes, that don't feel comfortable within the overall scenario, but know they fall within the LGBTQIA. Queer as a sexuality has different meanings for those who identify as queer. There is a generic term as queer that includes everyone within the LGBTQIA community. However, it's important to know that not everyone who is LGBTQIA will be happily identified as queer. So don't just be throwing out the word queer regardless of who you meet. Some people get really uncomfortable with that. The general term of queer is often used for those who have a very complex identity or relationship with themselves or other people. Stuff that's very hard to define using the available terminology that they have. Or people that are undecided. For example, if somebody knows that they're not straight, they know that they're not heterosexual, but they're not sure what umbrella or box that they fit in. They may choose to call themselves queer in order to make sure that people are aware of the fact that they don't just identify as heterosexual, that they have a lot more to them that is going on, that they either haven't defined yet or are uncertain of. Quick word of warning. Don't try and define somebody else's sexuality. You don't want to be accidentally outing somebody if they are not ready to do so. You don't want to be describing somebody as gay or lesbian or pansexual if they are not ready to tell people about that aspect of themselves yet. Or if they haven't decided exactly where they fall within the entire spectrum of the LGBTQIA. And if somebody asks, hey, do you know what sexuality so-and-so is? Tell them to go and ask themselves. You don't want to be putting anyone in danger. You don't want to be making assumptions for anyone. And you certainly don't want to be speaking for them in regards to their sexuality. It is not your place to explain somebody else's sexuality. And to be honest with you, it's quite rude to do so. And there we have some of the sexualities found within the LGBTQIA. Some of the ones that you might find more commonly in your day-to-day lives. Now, before I go any further, I need to say a massive, massive thank you. Because this list would not have been accurately represented and brought forward were it not for a glorious individual known as Babbling Goat. Babbling Goat is an LGBTQIA lecturer who travels all over Europe teaching different companies about the LGBTQIA and how best they can be inclusive within their companies. Babbling Goat is a very, very good friend of mine, and actually 2 episodes of the first season of Thirsty Work actually feature Babbling Goat, because we got so carried away that we had to keep talking. But I will put those links down below as well, because I feel like if you're interested in this video, those 2 episodes will really, really catch your attention. We talk about gender identity, questions that should or should not be asked in regards to somebody's gender, somebody's sexuality, and we even touch on the psychology of why it is that some people find it so hard to grasp the idea of all these different sexualities and genders outside of the binary. If you have enjoyed what you've seen today and you found it educational, I would love it if you would consider pressing that little subscribe button, even potentially even pressing that little thumbs up saying that what you've enjoyed has been worthwhile. If you have any things that you would like me to explore in regards to definitions and terminology and stuff like that, then please put it down in the description. If you feel like I might even have something wrong or the terminology I described wasn't as you understand it, then please, again, put it down in the comments. I'll see what I can do about educating myself further, though I have done quite a bit of research. So I hope that isn't the case, you know? If you enjoy conversations like this, deep, intricate conversations about sex, sexuality, and dynamics of the person, then come check me out on twitch.tv/ValenVain. We have lots of interesting conversations over there, so hopefully we'll be able to involve you in one of the interesting things and potentially answer some of the questions that you may have. However, until the next time, you beautiful individuals, don't do anything I wouldn't do, because if I wouldn't do it, I'd fucking kill you. And you, 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 and me. And you, and me, and me.